some people, including yourself, have preached that we shouldn't seek to be happy, that we should seek to be holy. What changed your mind about that? And isn't holiness more important than happiness?
Yeah, as a young Christian, I did teach that. Oswald Chambers and My Utmost for His Highest and numbers of other, godly people would say, God doesn't care about our happiness. He cares about our holiness. And in fact, they would advise it's really dangerous to want to be happy because that's what's going to get you into sin. So instead, be holy. Well, there's some basic problems with that. One is we're saying that God isn't happy or that God is a father who doesn't want his children to be happy. Now, what would you think of any father who said, I don't want my kids to be happy. I don't care about my kids' happiness. I just want them to do the right things. I only care about their holiness, not their happiness. What would you think of a father like that? Would you be drawn to think, oh, wow, man, I wish I had a dad who didn't want me to be happy or didn't care whether I was happy? No, that's not a compliment to God. And what it does is, the reason that I think a lot of these people said it, I said it because they said it, and I later changed my mind after thinking it through and seeing it biblically. For instance, on the issue of happiness, the book of Psalms starts, the Hebrew word asher is the first word of the Psalms. It's translated, sadly, blessed. Now, there's a number of translations that translated happy, and that is the correct translation. But a lot of the ones that depend on the King James Version, the more popular translations usually translate blessed. But read happy, because that's what it is. Happy is the one who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked or stand in the way of sinners or sit in the seat of mockers, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and he meditates on that law day and night. It's like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in season. And Psalm 32 also starts with the word asher, should be translated happy. Happy is he whose transgressions are forgiven, whose sins are covered. How could you not be happy when you realize what Jesus has done for you? And this is what struck me. I grew up in an unbelieving home. I came to faith in Christ, and people who saw the change in my life, they would have said, I'm sure they did say, a number of them, Randy's just happier than he used to be. Well, yeah, not because I was pursuing sin, but because I was cleansed of my sins. That's why I was happy. And then, happy is the one whose sin the Lord does not count against him, in whose spirit is no deceit. And then it goes on to talk about the guilt and oppression that comes when you're living in sin. And then it contrasts it, and then it ends up to the one who's forgiven. And then verse 11 of Psalm 32, rejoice in the Lord and be glad, you righteous. Sing, all you who are upright in heart. That's what we should be experiencing. God has called us. So there's no contrast between holiness and happiness. The path of holiness and the path of happiness are the same. There is happiness in the one in whom there is holiness. That's God. And the devil's strategy is just separate those two. Because guess what? If your kids or your grandkids or you yourself are told, if you want holiness, check off the box, do the duty, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's what the Christian faith is for you. That's what church is for you over here. Now, if you want happiness, that's what you can find out here in the world. Which one of those two you think is going to win that battle? God himself has wired us to want to be happy. And in the happiness book, I've got tons of quotes of philosophers, church fathers, theologians, reformers, Puritans throughout history who all affirm it's God who has wired us to want to be happy. So let's stop thinking that we should tell people don't want to be happy. Of course they want to be happy. What we got to help them do is to see where they can be happy. And it's not in sin. That will bring misery. Christ brings true and abiding and eternal happiness.